The Western Philosophy, Will Durant Chapter 9, section 6. The Superman. Just as morality lies not in kindness, but in strength, so the goal of human effort should be not the elevation of all, but the development of finer and stronger individuals. Not mankind, but Superman is the goal. The very last thing a sensible man would undertake would be to improve mankind. Mankind does not improve. It does not even exist. It is an abstraction. All that exists is a vast ant-hill of individuals. The aspect of the whole is much more like that of a huge experimental workshop, where some things in every age succeed, while most things fail, and the aim of all the experiments is not the happiness of the mass, but the improvement of the type. Better that societies should come to an end than that no higher type should appear. Society is an instrument for the enhancement of the power and the personality of the individual. The group is not an end in itself. To what purpose, then, are the machines? If all individuals are only of use in maintaining them, machines or social organizations that are ends in themselves, is that the Humana Commedia? At first, Nietzsche spoke as if his hope were for the production of a new species. Later, he came to think of his Superman as the superior individual rising precariously out of the mire of mass mediocrity, and owing his existence more to deliberate breeding and careful nurture than to the hazards of natural selection. For the biological process is biased against the exceptional individual. Nature is more cruel to her finest products. She loves rather and protects the average and the mediocre. There is in nature a perpetual reversion to type, to the level of the mass, a recurrent mastery of the best by the most. The Superman can survive only by human selection, by eugenic foresight, and an ennobling education. How absurd it is, after all, to let higher individuals marry to love heroes with servant girls, and geniuses with seamstresses. Schopenhauer was wrong. Love is not eugenic. When a man is in love, he should not be permitted to make decisions affecting his entire life. It is not given to men to love and be wise. We should declare invalid the vows of lovers and should make love a legal impediment to marriage. The best should marry only the best. Love should be left to the rebel. The purpose of marriage is not merely reproduction, it should also be development. Thou art young and wishest for child and marriage, but I ask thee, art thou a man who dareth to wish for a child? Art thou the victorious one, the self-subduer, the commander of thy senses, the master of thy virtues? Or in thy wish doth there speak the animal or necessity? Or solitude or discord with thyself? I would that thy victory and freedom were longing for a child. Thou shalt build living monuments unto thy victory and thy liberation. Thou shalt build beyond thyself, but first thou must build thyself square in body and soul. Thou shalt not only propagate thyself, but propagate thyself upward. Marriage, thus I call the will of two to create that one which is more than they would created it. I call marriage reverence unto each other as unto those who wield such a will. Without good birth, nobility is impossible. Intellect alone does not ennoble. On the contrary, something is always needed to ennoble intellect. What then is needed? Blood. I do not refer here to the prefix lords or the almanac Decadence. This is a parenthesis for donkeys. But given good birth and eugenic breeding, the next factor in the formula of the Superman is a severe school where perfection will be exacted as a matter of course, not even meriting praise, where there will be few comforts and many responsibilities, where the body will be taught to suffer in silence, and the will may learn to obey and to command. No libertarian nonsense, no weakening of the physical and moral spine by indulgence and freedom. And yet a school where one will learn to laugh heartily. Philosophers should be graded according to their capacity for laughter. He who striveth across the highest mountains laugheth at all tragedies, And there will be no moralic exit in this education of Superman, an asceticism of the will, but no condemnation of the flesh. Cease not to dance, ye sweet girls, no spoil sport hath come unto you with an evil eye, no enemy of girls with beautiful ankles. Even a Superman may have a taste for beautiful ankles. A man so born and bred would be beyond good and evil. He would not hesitate to be bossy if his purpose should require it. He would be fearless rather than good. What is good? To be brave is good. What is good? All that increases the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself. In man, what is bad? All that comes from weakness. Perhaps the dominant mark of the Superman will be love of danger and strife, provided that they have a purpose. He will not seek safety first. He will leave happiness to the greatest number. Zarathustra was fond of all such as makes distant voyages, and like not to live without danger. Hence all war is good, despite the vulgar pettiness of its cause. In modern times, a good war hallows any cause. Even revolution is good, not in itself, for nothing could be more unfortunate than the supremacy of the masses, but because times of strife bring out the latent greatness of individuals who before had insufficient stimulus or opportunity. Out of such chaos comes the dancing star. Out of the turmoil and nonsense of the French Revolution, Napoleon, out of the violence and disorder of the Renaissance, such powerful individualities, and in such abundance as Europe has, energy, intellect, and pride, these make the Superman. But they must be harmonized. The passions will become powers only when they are selected and unified by sonic great purpose, which molds a chaos of desires into the power of a personality. Woe to the thinker who is not the gardener but the soil of his plants. Who is it that follows his impulses? The weakling, he lacks the power to inhibit. He is not strong enough to say no. He is a discord, a decadent. To discipline one's self, that is the highest thing. The man who does not wish to be merely one of the mass only needs to cease to be easy on himself. to have purpose, for which one can be hard upon others, but above all upon one's self, to have a purpose for which one will do almost anything except betray a friend. That is the final patent of nobility, the last formula of the Superman. Only by seeing such a man as the goal and the reward of our labors can we love life and live upward. We must have an aim for whose sake we are all dear to one another. Let us be great or servant and instruments to the great. What a fine sight it was when millions of Europeans offered themselves as means to the ends of Bonaparte, and died for him gladly, singing his name as they fell. Perhaps those of us who understand can become the prophets of him whom we cannot be, and can straighten the way for his coming. We, indifferent of lands, indifferent of times, can work together, however separated, for this end. Zarathustra will sing, even in his suffering, if he can but hear the voices of these hidden helpers, these lovers of the higher man. Ye lonely ones of today, ye who stand apart, ye shall one day be a peopled from you who have chosen yourselves. A chosen people shall arise, and from it the Superman. Consequently, the road to the Superman must lie through aristocracy. Democracy, this mania for counting noses, must be eradicated before it. In democracy, before it is too late. The first step here is the destruction of Christianity so far as all higher men are concerned. The triumph of Christ was the beginning of democracy. The first Christian was, in his deepest instincts, a rebel against everything privileged. He lived and struggled unremittingly for equal rights. In modern times, he would have been sent to Siberia. He that is greatest among you, let him be your servant. This is the inversion of all political wisdom, of all sanity. Indeed, as one reads the gospel, one feels the atmosphere of a Russian novel. They are a sort of plagiarism from Dostoevsky. Only among the lowly could such notions take root, and only in an age whose rulers had degenerated and ceased to rule. When Nero and Caracalla sat on the throne, the paradox arose that the lowest man was worth more than the man on top. As the conquest of Europe by Christianity was the end of ancient aristocracy, so the overrunning of Europe by Teutonic warrior barons brought a renewal of the old masculine virtues and planed the roots of the modern aristocracies. These men were not burdened with morals. They were free from every social restraint. In the innocence of their wild beast conscience, they returned as exultant monsters from a horrible train of murder, incendiarism, rapine, torture, with an arrogant and compromise, as if nothing but a student freak had been perpetrated. It was such men who supplied the ruling classes for Germany, Scandinavia, France, England, Italy, and Russia. A herd of blonde beasts of prey, a race of conquerors and masters, with military organizations, with the power to organize, unscrupulously placing their fearful paws upon a population perhaps vastly superior in numbers. This herd founded the state. The dream is dispelled which made the state begin with a contract. What has he to do with contracts? Who can command? Who is master by nature? Who comes on the scene with violence in deed and demeanor? This splendid ruling stock was corrupted first by the Catholic laudation of feminine virtues, secondly by the Puritan and plebeian ideals of the Reformation, and thirdly by intermarriage with inferior stock, just as Catholicism was mellowing into the aristocratic and moral culture of the Renaissance. The Reformation crushed it with a revival of Judaic rigor and solemnity. Does anybody at last understand? Will anybody understand what the Renaissance was? The transvaluation of Christian values, the attempt undertaken with all means, all instincts, and all genius to make the opposite values, the noble values, triumph. I see before me a possibility perfectly magical in its charm and glorious coloring. Caesar Borgia as Pope. Do you understand me? Protestantism and beer have dulled German wit. At now, Wagnerian opera. As a result, the present day Prussian is one of the most dangerous enemies of culture. The presence of a German retards my digestion if, as Gibbon says, nothing but time, though a long time, is required for a world to perish. So nothing but time, though still more time, is required for a false idea to be destroyed in Germany. When Germany defeated Napoleon, it was as disastrous to culture as when Luther defeated the church. Thenceforward, Germany put away her Goethes, her Schopenhauers, and her Beethovens, and began to worship patriots. Deutschland über alles. I fear that was the end of German philosophy. Yet there is a natural seriousness and depth in the Germans that gives ground for the hope that they may yet redeem Europe. They have more of the masculine virtues than the French or the English. They have perseverance, patience, industry, hence their scholarship, their science, and their military discipline. It is delightful to see how all Europe is worried about the German army. If the German power of organization could cooperate with the potential resources of Russia in materials and in men, then would come the age of great politics. We require an intergrowth of the German and the Slav races. And we require too the cleverest financier, the Jews, that we may become the masters of the world. We require an unconditional union with Russia. The alternative was encirclement and strangulation. The trouble with German is a certain stolidity of mind which pays for this solidity of character. Germany misses the long traditions of culture which have made the France the most refined and subtle of all the peoples of Europe. I believe only in French culture, and I regard everything else in Europe which calls itself culture as a misunderstanding. When one reads Montaigne, La Rochefoucauld, Vovinagus, and Chamfort, one is nearer to antiquity than with any group of authors in any other nation. Voltaire is a grand seigneur of the mind, and the Times is the first of living historians. Even the later French writers, Flaubert, Bourget, Anatole France, etc., are infinitely beyond other Europeans in clarity of thought and language. What clearness and delicate precision in these Frenchmen! European nobility of taste, feeling, and manners is the work of France, but of the old France of the 16th and the 17th centuries. The revolution, by destroying the aristocracy, destroyed the vehicle and the nursery of culture, and now the French soul is thin and pale in comparison with what it used to be. Nevertheless, it has still some fine qualities. In France, almost all psychological and artistic questions are considered with incomparably more subtlety and thoroughness than they are in Germany. At the very moment when Germany arose as a great power in the world of politics, France won new importance in the world of culture. Russia is the blonde beast of Europe. Its people have a stubborn and resigned fatalism which gives them, even nowadays, the advantage over us, Westerners. Russia has a strong government without parliamentary imbecility. Force of will has long been accumulating there and now threatens to find release. It would not be surprising to find Russia becoming master of Europe. A thinker who has at heart the future of Europe will, in all his perspectives concerning the future, calculate upon the Jews and the Russians, as above all the surest and the likeliest factors in the great play and the battle of forces. But all in all, it is the Italians who are the finest and the most vigorous of existing peoples. The man plant grows strongest in Italy, as Alfieri boasted. There is a manly bearing, an aristocratic pride in even the lowliest Italian, a poor Venetian gondolier, always a better figure than a burling Gerhamritz, and in the end, indeed, a better man. Worst of all are the English. It is they who corrupted the French mind with the democratic delusion. Shopkeepers, Christians, cows, women, Englishmen, and other Democrats belonging together. English utilitarianism and Philistinism are the nadir of European culture. Only in land of cutthroat competition could anyone conceive of life as a struggle for mere existence. only in a land where shopkeepers and shipkeepers had multiplied to such a number as to overcome the aristocracy could democracy be fabricated. This is the gift, the Greek gift, which England has given the modern world. Who will rescue Europe from England and England from democracy? This part is over.